All right, welcome to another episode of YouTube's Best Videos, aka Your Government Class. We're talking about organizations of the Congress, basically organization of it, rather. And so like we talked about before, there's a major difference between the House and the Senate. The House is bigger, so it has more rules to control it, and the Senate has only 100 members and fewer, so it doesn't take as many rules. That makes the Speaker, also known as the Speaker of the House, the one of the most powerful people in Congress because he or she is the leader of the House of Representatives and has a lot more power. The President of the Senate is the Vice President. The Vice President doesn't get to vote in the Senate unless there is a tie. So the Vice President's job is completely useless. In fact, that is almost exactly what Nance Garner said when he used to be the Speaker of the House. He was very powerful, and then became FDR's Vice President, and he said the Vice Presidency wasn't worth a warm bucket of something that rhymes with spit. And he said that because once he became Vice President, he had almost no power. As Speaker of the House, you have power. So the President of the Senate is the Vice President, only votes in the case of ties, and doesn't bother going down to the Senate because it's boring. So as a result, to run, it doesn't really, let's see, banner mark doesn't do anything, never mind. I was trying to space it out and make it more neat. Didn't work. The Senate President pro tempore, which basically, I don't speak Latin, but I'm going to go with temporary. So it's a temporary president while the vice president is never attending Senate. The Senate President pro tempore runs the Senate floor, but it's more of a figurehead position. The person who is the head of the Senate, or the pro tempore, is the majority party person or senator that has the most experience. Right now, I believe that is Daniel Inouye. You can look him up for your assignment. But generally it means that the person is very old if they have had the most experience. It's mostly a figurehead position. Both houses have minority and majority leaders. The Senate majority leader, that basically makes the Senate majority leader one of the more powerful figures in the Senate, and they run the Senate while communicating with the minority leader of the Senate. However, in the House of Representatives, the majority leader is the second in command to the Speaker of the House. So the majority leader in the Senate has, is higher ranking than the majority leader in the House. And then the minority leader, of course, is the leader of the minority in both houses. So that means in the Senate, the majority leader is Harry Reid, who is a Democrat, and in the majority leader in the, well, this is part of your assignment, so actually I'm not going to give you all the answers, but the point is that the minority leader in the House is a Democrat, the minority leader in the Senate is a Republican, because the Democrats control the Senate and the Republicans control the House of Representatives, at least until we have the election in a few weeks, and then maybe things will change in January. Last, we have this position called whips, which basically, they make people do things. They count votes for the majority and minority leaders to figure out whether legislation is going to pass. So they are basically a connection from the leadership of the House to the rank and file members, the members that are not in leadership positions. They're called whips because basically they do one of two things. They offer, the expression is carrot or stick, carrot being a reward, like for a horse, I guess, and stick being what you beat the horse with, apparently, if you're angry with it. So they either will offer a reward, like if you vote for this legislation, we will put this thing that will benefit you into the bill, or we will do something that you want, or they'll offer punishments that if you don't vote for this bill, then we will take out all of the funding for your district in this other bill. And so basically they are threatening and bribing makes it illegal, but basically offering incentives to vote for the bill. And so that is more or less what they're doing. So again, the Speaker in the House is the most powerful. Then below the Speaker is the Majority Leader, and then you have Majority Whips, who are basically enforcing the will of the leadership. There's also a Minority Leader in the House that is the leader of the opposition, and a Minority Whip who is basically enforcing the minority leaders or trying to help run the minority side of the House. In the Senate, you have the President of the Senate, the Vice President, who never comes. So you have the Senate President pro tempore, who basically is running the meetings, even though the Senate, they often don't come either. No one really goes to the Senate floor or the House floor, but we'll talk about that in class. And you have the Majority Leader, who basically runs the majority party and has a Majority Whip in the Senate, and then the Minority Leader in the Senate with a Minority Whip. And they basically are enforcing the rules of the House and the Senate and trying to get the leadership to get what's done. Okay, National Republican Congressional Committee. The first 4 terms on here are all more or less the same thing. And they're all very important now right before the election. So the National Republican Congressional Committee, they raise money for Republicans who are running for the House of Representatives. And so whoever's running that committee is going to put money into the campaigns of the districts that the Republicans think that they can win, or that they need to put a little more money into to pay for advertising to hold on to the seat. The Democratic Congressional Committee does the exact same thing from the Democratic side. For House races, the Democrats raise money, they put that money, they put someone in charge of that, and then that member of the House decides, oh, we're going to donate $1 million to Jerry Connolly, who is the member of Congress from my district, because Jerry Connolly might not win the next election. Where no one is going to put money into Jim Moran's district because, like I keep saying, he's going to win. There's not much question. Obviously, anything can happen, but he's not going to win. Okay, the National Republican Senatorial Committee and the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee are, again, the same thing for Senate candidates. So Chuck Schumer of New York used to be the head of the Democratic Senatorial Campaign, and basically he was in charge of deciding what Senate candidates would win. And the National Republican Senatorial Committees decide the same things. For example, a ton of money is going to the Tim Kaine, George Allen race in Virginia. George Allen is a Republican, Tim Kaine is a Democrat. They're both former governors of Virginia, and George Allen used to be the senator from Virginia. So all 4 of these groups, what they are doing is they are raising money, and then the committee is deciding where to donate that money to whose campaign to buy advertisements to try to win that election. All right, a caucus, or caucuses is the plural, is basically an organization that you get a group of representatives or senators or both to agree on something, and they might have meetings to organize some sort of legislative strategy. So some of the most famous caucuses are the Congressional Black Caucus. So many African American members and non-African American members who support African American views get together and they strategize legislation. There's a Tea Party caucus, and so Michelle Bachmann is the head of the Tea Party caucus. She goes, she holds meetings when she wants to, and she gets to say that she's the head of the meeting. You could have a caucus on anything. You could have a caucus on corn. You could have a caucus on sugar. It doesn't matter. It's just anyone who has similar interests on a piece of legislation or multiple pieces of legislation. It is only members of Congress who are members of caucuses.